The Centaur is a 1963 novel by John Updike, recipient of the National Book Award. Drawing on classical myth and legend, the book elevates an otherwise ordinary mid-20th century American tale with the weight of antiquity. The narrative begins with George Caldwell, a teacher at Ollinger High School in the 1940s, struck in the ankle by an arrow fired by one of his own students. The wound forces him to abandon his class and hobble to the garage of old Mr. Hummel, seeking to have the arrow extracted. In his mind, George casts himself as the Centaur Chiron, a fantasy sparked by earlier flirtations with Hummel's wife, Vera, herself a fellow teacher, who had once played Venus in their imaginative exchanges. George's tendency to lose himself in such daydreams recurs throughout the novel. While with Hummel, George rails against Principal Zimmerman, whom he views as an adversary scheming to push him out of his job. His bitterness contrasts sharply with memories of his youth. Once a football hero and a decorated veteran of the First World War, his earlier triumphs now feel remote and hollow. Disillusioned by his work, burdened by financial struggles, and gnawed by depression, George presents a gloomy figure both at school and at home. His son Peter, who also attends Ollinger, suffers from psoriasis and worries deeply about his father's constant talk of illness and death. George's shabby dress and perpetual self-criticism reflect his lack of self-worth, and the long, wearying daily drive he and Peter endure to their home outside town leaves little room for genuine conversation. Peter longs for closeness, but instead the rides devolve into quarrels. Peter's anxiety leads him to check in on George at school, further aggravating his skin condition. Convinced he is gravely ill, George insists on seeing a doctor despite his wife's dismissal of his fears. He arranges for X-rays in Alton, coinciding with the school swim team's meet, and drags along a reluctant Peter. While George attends the match, Peter distracts himself at the movies. When they regroup, George reports the team's loss. Their car fails to start, forcing them to seek help, and a drunken stranger menaces George, suspecting him of abducting Peter. Father and son spend the night in a hotel before returning home. At school, Zimmerman chastises George so severely that George's certain dismissal is imminent. He broods over Zimmerman's hypocrisy, his mistress, his predatory behavior toward female students, yet finds little comfort in the knowledge. Meanwhile, Peter confides his ambition to become an artist. The family's rural isolation continues to cause hardship. Another failed trip home strands George and Peter overnight at the Hummel residence. George, uneasy in Vera's presence after their flirtation, endures the stay, while Peter, comparing the household's calm order to the turmoil of his own home, finds Vera almost an idealized mother figure. George's dissatisfaction with country life and his hatred of owning a car sharpen the family tensions, worsening each time the car betrays him. Further frustrations follow. George tries to attend a baseball game, but discovers no ticket awaits him, and once more the car breaks down, this time without help nearby. When he finally makes it home, the doctor's report is anticlimactic. The X-rays show him in perfect health. Rather than reassure him, the news plunges George into a deeper melancholy. Soon a snowstorm strands him and Peter again, trapping them for 3 days. During this time, George senses a shift in his son. Peter is no longer a child. Peter eventually grows up, pursues his artistic calling, and later looks back on Ollinger with new perspective. He comes to recognize his father's sacrifices and feels a deeper gratitude for the burdens George endured on his behalf. George emerges as a figure like Chiron, who, tormented after Prometheus's theft of fire, begged for release from his suffering. The novel closes on an equivocal note. George appears to resume his duties, reconciled to mediocrity and to his responsibility toward Peter. Yet the possibility lingers that his resignation signals not acceptance, but a final surrender, perhaps even a decision to end his life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe.